Ladies, gentlemen, MBs, yeah, everybody, in the building. We got special guest in the building, Tom Sniegoski, who I would say, if you've been around for the channel for at least a little bit, you probably know already. We've had Tom on before, but I'll just give a little brief introduction for those who may or may not be familiar. Tom, you have written for Vampirella, you've written for Buffy, you've written for Hellboy. You've also got another series with friend of the channel, Janine, Soul Taker over at Mad Cave. You've kind of been doing it all. Not to mention not just comic books. You've been writing books.
Book thing. Wow.
Yeah. It's like you've been doing a little bit of everything. You got skin in the game.
I do.
And you're back. And this time you're writing something very different.
Oh yeah.
From what I like. I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. When I saw the press release, when I think it was the first announced. And word was out on the street. Like, I think Herculoids had already been announced, but when you were announced as the writer, I was like, okay, all right, I want to see where this. I want to see how this goes. I'm anxious now. All right, let's. You had me at Herculoids, but Herculoids with Tom. Now I have a lot of questions. I need to know more.
All right, I'm ready.
So, well, first and foremost, I just want to ask, what was it like to get that call? Like, what was it like to get that call for the Herculoids?
I'll let you in on a little inside stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I started to see that Dynamite was starting to get the Hanna-Barbera properties from Warner Bros., I put an email into Nick Barucci, who is the president of Dynamite, and I said, if you do not give me the Herculoids when you get this license, I will be so bullshit at you. You cannot imagine how mad I will be at you if you do not give me that license. And at the time, they didn't have it. It was like, oh, it's something that we're looking at, but you know what? We'll talk when we get. And I don't even know how long. It was maybe a couple of months later on. I got an email from Nick that basically said, "We got the Herculoids. It's yours if you want it."
I love that because for one, Nick is an awesome guy. Nick Barucci is
I've known Nick for like 30 years. So
like I could already like when you said that he was just like, hey, look, it's yours. Like I could already hear it in Nick's voice.
What is yours? Here it is.
Yeah. Well, okay. So it's been for me, and I think this is talk about a time to be alive. For me, I always thought it was so cool that. With all the stuff that that you can get in comics nowadays, you can get all these different types of stories that I think and open up a lot of people's horizons on what comics can be. I always like it when you grew up as a kid, you had all those favorite TV shows, those favorite cartoons, and back in the day, that accessibility just wasn't always there. Like if you didn't tune in on Monday or Saturday or whatever day it was the show came on, you just missed it.
Yeah.
It was gone, and you will never see it again until many moons.
Maybe in the reruns, yeah.
But like with comics and bringing something like the Herculoids in, and same with a lot of the other properties Dynamite's been doing with like the Hanna-Barbera stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool because for one, you get to go for that nostalgia that people my age grew up with the Herculoids, like really like want to tap back into that vein, but also at the same time, like younger audiences who have no familiarity with the Herculoids, but it could bring them in and kind of give that second. I say second life. I think technically they had like a revival like somewhere in the 80s too, but like you could have that that second life, that third life in the case of Herculoids.
Right.
So like let's talk about familiarity. Like
Okay.
what because you obviously were interested.
Oh, I was beyond interested.
So like what was your origin with the Herculoids?
Well, I mean, the Herculoids was, I mean, I can remember sitting in front of the TV set
Mhm,
watching the Herculoids and being just fascinated. I mean, I was probably, I think when it first aired, I think I was 5.
mhm,
So you're talking really young age, but I was always I was always the monster kid, even
mhm,
at a young age. So here were these amazing looking monsters that were
mhm,
actually heroes. So it was like this really kind of cool superhero-y, but it really wasn't superhero-y. So that always kind of like permeated my brain. The looks of those characters, um, just amazing. Same with Space Ghost. That was another one that
mhm.
kind of like stuck to my brain. So what's funny is as the years went on, I mean, Hercules was only on for like 2 years
Right.
originally. Um, as the years went on and I got into writing comics and things like that, even as a novice in writing comics, I would ask publishers, "Do you know who has the Herculoids license? Who has the Herculoids license?" And I was nobody. I was absolutely nobody, but I was like fixated on it. If I had an opportunity to do these characters, boy, I would love to do it. And for years and years and years, it just went on that way with me asking and poking and prodding, and then I found out, and then DC had it because
Mm,
of Warner Brothers connection. Um, but I could never crack that nut at all.
mm.
They were very odd with that property. They were very odd with all those Hanna-Barbera properties. They were kind of odd with.
Yeah, I never understood that because I remember like so it's kind of funny you bring that up, and I suddenly remember them having them,
Yeah,
but I don't remember them like outside of like I know I know DC did do some stuff with Space Ghost for a little bit,
yep,
but like outside of that, out maybe like the odd, hey, we're gonna put these Hanna Barbera characters on like on a variant cover for this or like a special like anniversary cover there. I don't remember. I don't remember anything really being done with them.
no, the last big thing that they did, which was a valiant attempt.
Mm.
Jeff Parker wrote it. It was actually pretty good. It was called Future Quest, and it combined all Johnny Quest, the Herculoid, Space Ghost. It combined all the characters together in like this big crossover,
Oh yeah.
to do crossover story. And that was actually pretty decent. I actually kind of enjoyed that, but I don't know if it just didn't get the response that they were hoping for because it just everything just went quiet after that.
I, I'm
Um,
guessing it must not have because I like I said I feel like that's a wasted opportunity to
yeah,
not
I mean, it's
to not
obvious,
go for that.
and it was obviously an attempt to do something finally. I mean, to
Mhm.
have all these characters introduced and coming together and stuff like that. But yeah, it really didn't amount to a hell of a lot of anything. I mean, again, it was good. It was
Man.
fun. I mean, I remember really enjoying it. It was
Yeah.
just pissed at Jeff Parker for getting to write the Herculoids, but
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was such a strange one because you know, you think about the Herculoids and what they are like, and you would think like that property, especially considering like the level of cachet it has,
yeah,
as in pop culture. Like, I mean, the stuff got referenced on Family Guy for Christ's sakes.
yeah,
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 it was something that was always kind of strange to me. Like, I wonder, like, why is no one using this? Because it's such a strange. It's a strange story, but it's one that it's still kind of in a lot of ways light years ahead of some of the stuff that people are telling now, just based on like the hero dynamic
yeah.
of it. The like you said earlier, the monsters are the good, like which was an
I mean,
insane concept back then.
what's fascinating about it is that even though they were like, I don't know how many seasons, 2 seasons, and then they brought it back in like 1979.
Mhm,
You look at you look at the stories that they did, and this is not a slam against it at all.
mhm.
There's no repetition. It's pretty much the same story over and over and over again with different
Yeah.
monsters and stuff like that. So even as a kid watching that, I can remember saying, I want more. I, I want more than this. Yeah,
Right.
these guys are invading Amzot. They want something on Amzot. The Herculoids defeat them. The end. And that was pretty much what we got over
Mhm,
and over again. But my brain at that age, and especially older, was always trying to see more. Was
mhm,
was always trying to, like, all right, what additional thing can we tell? Like, what what information can you give me? Because we really didn't know. We don't know anything about them at
mhm,
all. We know the name of the planet. We know that they're kind of a family, and we know that people keep coming to Amzot and invading it. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's it. That's all we know. So, I mean, I think that might have been the kind of like the catalyst for my
mhm.
mind to kind of want to do more with the characters. I don't
Well,
know.
I like just with a lot of the stuff that Dynamite's been doing lately, it's always just kind of make me wonder how no one has done this sooner, even more is because you've already got um you've already got Space Ghost going on right now, which you know Dave has done a fantastic job of kind of fleshing that character out and kind of updating him, but also still maintaining those original vibes. You got like Thundercats. He took like a TV show that was literally a 22-minute advertisement for toys to sell to
Yep.
children. Not very in depth. And so that's what actually got me really curious is you know to take the Herculoids and try to flesh them out in a way that we haven't seen before that you could really take advantage of the comics medium to tell that story.
Yeah.
Like what is Tom's vision? What is
Well,
Tom's vision for Herculoids?
what's interesting is kind of like what I said a minute
Mm,
ago.
mhm,
I always wanted to know more about them. I want to know
mhm,
more about, was there something special about the planet?
mhm,
Where did they come from? Why
mhm.
why are all these kind of monstrous life forms intermingling with each other without any problem at all? Even though there are other monsters and stuff on the planet that
Mhm,
horrible and trying to eat everybody.
mhm,
It's all kinds of there was all kinds of like questions. So that's where I started. That's when
mhm.
I found out that I'd be doing the book. I was like super excited, and then I got the email that basically said, "Okay, if you're doing the book, what's the first year? Give us
Ooh.
rough plots for the first year." And I was like, "Ah, shit! I gotta come up with 12 short plots quick." So yeah, so that was a little daunting at first because I
Mhm,
think no matter how much you want something,
mhm.
when you actually get it, it's almost like, oh crap, I didn't expect to get it. Oh no.
Was
Oh,
it's the
now
dog that
I,
caught the car.
yeah, now I gotta think.
Well, I mean, honestly, if anybody could do it, I know you can. And I like, I just it made me excited because once again, if, for anyone that just happened to tune in now and you missed the intro, just your resume, in storytelling is no slouch by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, pretty good.
So.
Pretty good. Even I have even I have to kind of say, if I saw the resume, I'd be impressed. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
look. I don't know about anybody else, but I look at the credits that are under your name, and I think to myself, Yeah. If anyone's gonna do it, and I think so the one of the other things that leapt out at me too, obviously, your our monstrous characters, like, I mean, first off, the fact that you're going to find a way to tell a story centered around monsters who, by and large, do not talk, like outside.
That was actually something that I said. It was so funny. Janine was here and we were working on something, and all of a sudden I remember saying, "Oh crap!" And she said, "What's the matter?" And I'm like, "None of these characters talk."
Like grunts and like,
oh no. She was laughing. She goes, "They don't talk." She didn't watch Herculoids. She goes, "They don't talk," and I'm like, "No." Goes, "No."
Well, it's just I look at them and I say, man, that, like, you want Herculoids more like Herculean in terms of like the task to write a story around that. But also, one of the things that, and I didn't think about this until right when we started planning to have this conversation, but you've also got our other characters, the family, who are they're basically where you can get a lot of your exposition, a lot of your dialogue from. You got was Xandor, Tara, and Dorno. So, and I remember looking back at that and thinking like, oh wow, outside of stuff like obviously like the Flintstones, Jetsons, whatever. But like in terms of a story like what the Herculoids is, that was the first time I think I had ever actually seen like a family unit that obviously you had stuff like Johnny Quest, but that was kind of more like a father and his son and kind of a found family situation outside of that. But like an actual like legitimate like, hey, this is these two parents and a kid just hanging out in the jungles of some strange planet. So like, and I know there was different dynamics based on the original series versus the revival series, because that was actually something I always thought I'd never noticed until I got older, was that Dorno never really treated his parents like they were his parents. It was almost like they were just people he knew.
He called them by their first names.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really kind of cool. And that's really interesting.
So like obviously these guys would be carrying the weight of the story, but like are we gonna get any inclination as to like their place in the planet, like at large, or like or any deeper look into the dynamic between all three characters?
I think you'll get that dynamic with each of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of how they kind of like why they exist, why they are the way they are, and the purposes that they perform, along with the other more monstrous characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I kind of, going back to what I was saying about how I wanted to know more, I've kind of built an underlying story that goes through the first year, which will basically explain where they came from. So, where everything kind of came from, and the importance of the planet and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Well, and because like I'm sitting here and I see some some people in the chat talking about Dorno. I gotta admit, I think that I remember watching. I remember watching at one point, and that was when it kind of leapt out of me. I was like, "Are these really his parents?" Like,
yeah, they.
I was like, I was like,
I was kind of doing the same thing when I was kind of putting all this stuff together, and I'm like, maybe, and I'm like, nah, that's why make this any more complicated than it has to be?
Right. Well, and and that's the other thing too. Like, yeah, it's not a very complex tale as far as they're concerned, but with yeah, because what was it like every week? It was basically you people come down to plunder the planet or some strange creature or something like that is like going
Something from
crazy.
space or something from underneath,
Yeah.
or something trying to take something away or
Mm.
conquer, or I don't know what they were planning to do with it, but
Yeah.
it never got too in depth. Whenever,
No. Well, and I was actually I was usually okay with that too, just because I always felt that like, yeah, back especially for back then, it's like, okay, bad guys. You kind of had there was you understood. You had your white hats, you had your black hats.
yes,
And it was pretty straightforward. There was no like ambiguity on that.
oh, no ambiguity at all.
It was simpler times.
Much simpler. And again, I think that's kind of kind of the beauty of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, is that there was a charming simplicity,
Mhm.
and it still works in its own way. Like
Right.
when I'm rewatching them, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh man, this told me absolutely nothing about anything. But you know what? I was taught.
You were entertained. That was at the end of the day, I feel like that is usually what is the most important aspect of it.
Yeah,
And like and you always would you could always ask your questions after the fact to be like, ooh, but I wonder. But
right.
like in
But
this
that's
case, you kind of get to flesh that out.
now. I mean, the thing is, yeah, I can ask those questions, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I have a part of my brain that's working on the solution. I mean,
Mhm.
that's really that's been really fun to be able to kind of like go further to
Mhm.
define these characters even further than what we know them as. Because again, in the 20-minute episodes, you really don't get a hell of a lot. You get,
No.
Goo, the rock ape, Tundro, the Triceratops rhinoceros guy, Fox, laser dragon. That's pretty much everything that you need to know in these stories. But I want
Mhm.
to give you a little bit more. I want to kind of like flesh these things out. I want you to look at these characters
Right.
and get layers that you didn't see before.
Right. And what I one of the and this is something that I think that is just so wild about the Herculoids as a concept, because I never thought about it much when it was a cartoon. But actually, Dynamite had put out some of the well, obviously some of the covers. We got to see some of the covers for the first issue,
Yep.
and they're all beautiful, all
Oh,
beautiful.
gorgeous. They're gorgeous. Yeah.
The and here actually, here let's why make the people have to think about it? We'll show a little something. But I think look at this. It made me realize just how crazy this could potentially be. Like how just off the wall this could potentially go. And I gotta admit, I know that there's a ton of other I know there's a ton of other books that are going to be like coming out on the way that are kind of going to be kind of along these same lines, but I feel like this is going to be the one to kind of keep an eye on, because this is going to be I'm going to say this right now. This is going to be this year's Johnny Quest. I think a lot of people weren't ready for what Johnny Quest and like Space Ghost were going to be doing in Dynamite. And I feel like this is going to be more of this, like it's going to be one of those, like I think there's going to be a lot to surprise people and catch people off guard, because like when you look at you look at something like that, that's a fantastical world. And
Yeah. Oh
like
yeah.
I gotta ask, like, as talking about the characters, the Herculoids themselves, who cannot speak, for the group of them, which ones have been the most challenging to kind of write around in that regard?
I'm like writing number 4 right now.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's actually a Zoc centric issue.
Oh, Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
this is
okay.
the one. This is like the thing that I wanted when I had to come up with my 12 plot ideas. I got
Mhm.
this idea danced in my brain, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna let me do that. But man, do I really want to do it? Which is, I want to focus one issue on each of the monsters, on each of the monsters' characters, and define them, flesh them out, give them a backstory, give them
Mhm.
a current story, something about their biology, or I mean, just something really, really cool to kind of make them a little more than how they've been represented, other than
Mhm.
really cool Alex Toth design, you know?
Right. Which I
Which,
mean, for that time, just like you go back and look at a lot of that stuff, it's like and the designs like still they
yeah.
still hold up like
Oh,
to this very day.
remarkably well.
Like it on paper it shouldn't work. It should still work, but it's so it's the simplicity of it
Yeah,
that makes it so easy to like do more with it
yeah.
that I really like.
And when you see Craig Russo is the
Mhm.
artist on the book, he's so perfect for this book. I can't
Oh
even tell
yes. Well,
how absolutely perfect.
and actually want to show like just this is just kind of a taste.
Yeah,
This is kind of a taste of the of the first issue, but just like you look at it, like Craig's art style is very complimentary
yes. The anim
to that design,
Yeah.
to
Oh,
the
without,
Alex Toth design. Like it's
and he kept saying that when he was talking to me about when he was going to be drawing it. He kept saying, I don't want to change anything. He said,
mm,
this stuff is so well designed. I just want to kind of take that and do that. And I'm like, you
mm,
know what? That makes perfect sense to me, because you've kind of, in a way, have to tap into the nostalgia aspect as well.
right.
I think. I think to go too far kind of takes away a lot
Mm,
of the fun aspect of the comic, if that makes any
right.
sense. Um,
Right.
So I was ecstatic when he wanted to keep it as close to the Toth designs and the animation style as possible, but at the same time taking it to that next level. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. So yeah. So
Yeah.
none of my words are here. So
No, no. These are all unlettered. These are all
these are
unlettered.
other than that sound effect. I actually put that in. That's in my script.
Oh, okay. So you see y'all getting a little bit of a y'all getting a little bit of a taste. You see that the inside baseball of it is see this is what you.
Yeah, that sound effect I wanted to do. I was always fascinated by what Walt Simonson used to do in Thor. Where
Mhm.
he would incorporate these amazing sound effects into the artwork, and that's
Yes.
kind of what I was channeling on the sound effect part of that.
Well, because it's also I think that's the thing that kind of gets lost sometimes is that the the sound effects and the crashes, the thunders, and the like all that stuff. That's all like that's a lot of that is a part of the tale.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like you.
yeah. When you can incorporate that into the visual aspect of the book, that is so exciting. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know, but I find that thrilling when I can look at a comic and I see that they've actually gone out of their way to kind
Yes.
of amazing
Well,
designed page with sound effects intermingling with characters, and I mean, it's great. I love it.
there's a not in the same vein, but different comic. I often said this a lot about the current Transformer series that Day and Warren Johnson's doing right now. Because like when the Transformers transform, like you can see it in the like it does like it act like I never thought I'd ever see someone spell out the like
Yeah,
sound effect, but there it is, it's spelled out, and I'm just like, wow. I was like, it's little stuff like that when you see like if Thor shows you see like the Krakoom, or the or something like that. Like
yeah,
it puts you in the mindset, like it's
yeah.
yeah.
Like literally, it literally tramps. It makes it gives the book almost like a dimension that you didn't realize it didn't have before. like those sound effects, you're practically hearing them in your head because they're incorporated into that visual.
Hmm.
Yes. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain in a way, and and what's so funny is like my writing partner Janine, who you've met,
Yeah.
she's relatively new to comics.
Hmm.
And I was explaining this stuff to her, and you could see her looking at me going, I really don't know what you're talking about at all. So I had to break out some comics and plop them up and say, look at this. See how
Hmm.
this, like, oh, I get it. Because I mean, she's used to sound effects because she's scripted with me and, sound
Hmm.
effects. But the whole concept of taking your sound effect and making it almost part of the artwork
Right.
is kind of a neat little thing, and she was not familiar with that, so now she's a fan.
Well, because it's like I said, it hits all the right notes, and then also I think with this, like, even just looking at this alone,
Yeah.
like, I see I'm seeing the call, that Xandor's putting out, and I'm like, and I'm immediately transported back to like I can't. Obviously there's no sound because I'm reading it, but like I
Right.
can hear it,
Yep.
just from reading it alone. So that sort of stuff is incredibly important. And not only that, but just I think it's also just so incredibly important too that like honestly going. I kind of want to go back to Craig just for a moment because like I said, as I'm like kind of looking at these pages, it's like, yeah, this is the cartoon. Like this is
Yeah.
there's and I think that is so important. And I feel like, man, I don't know who is making the calls for who goes where, but if there's any one thing I will say is every single one of these books that I've seen come out of Dynamite, whether it has been the Hercules book or the Thundercats or Space Ghost, like the integrity of what the characters look like or what the vibe of it should look like has always been spot on. I've never once caught myself going, I don't think this looks like
Yeah.
the thing. I don't think this looks like it's and that was, man, like I'm just like I said, look at this now. I am blown away by
Yeah.
just how awesome this looks.
It's so funny because when I got the gig, my editor, Joe Rybat, he was kind of like, all right, any ideas of artists? Anybody, what do you think? And I remember, batting things around, but I had just worked with Craig on the Young Hellboy stuff.
Hmm.
So I knew what Craig could do. And I was like, what about Craig Russo? And I remember Joe going, oh, you know what? That would give us that Jack Kirby-ish kind of like bigger than life,
Hmm.
not super realistic or anything like that, but that kind of cool, fun comic, bigger than life vibe.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of, even in regard to the kinds of stories that I want to do in the first year.
Hmm.
So yeah, he was all on board with Craig, and then come to find out, and it's what's really weird. I didn't realize this, but Craig's an enormous Herculoids nut. So if I didn't recommend him for the job, I would have been in like some serious trouble.
So basically, we're saying Craig put out the same call that you did.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah. The thing is, I knew he knew it, and I knew he liked it, but I didn't realize how much. He was like
Mhm.
on the same page as me. So I was like, oh God, thank God I forgot to ask you. I'm terrible.
Well, I just man, I'm just super excited because this is I gotta say, just from a lot of the stuff that I've read of yours, especially as of late, which you and Janine on Vampirella Dark Reflections, yeah, and also on Soul Taker doing a fantastic job on both of those, and the Vampyverse stuff, and like in your sub with the was Vengeance of Vampirella and your Hellboy stuff. Like just it's I already kind of could, and especially just your general excitement
Yes.
for this. It's
Yeah.
just like I can tell it's gonna be something special. I think it's gonna be something
you
special.
know, I really hope so, because I mean, every time I sit down to start the next issue, it's
Mm.
kind of, I hope I'm doing this right. Uh, and what's amazing is that I've had like people within the industry who
Mm.
like, who I know, friends of mine working in comics, are like, "You better not screw this up." I'm like, "What do you mean? You know how much I want to do Hercules? Everybody wants to do Herculoids. It's amazing how many people have come out of the woodwork since I was announced on the book, and they're all threatening me, like, you better do a good job. I'll be ready."
It's like never did I ever think never did ever think it would be Herculoids at gunpoint.
Oh, I know.
Right.
And you know what? Even in the early days when I was poking around trying to find out who had the license, almost everybody that I would talk to just vaguely about the characters or whatever, there was just this gigantic like base of fans in the industry that just were like, "Oh man, those characters! Oh man, I
Oh,
love the way they look. I love the." I mean, and again, that's a real tip of the hat to Alex Toth.
right.
Uh, his designs and stuff like that. But yeah, I was always amazed that I wasn't the only one that remembered this, weird little TV show in 1997. But yeah, it fascinated me how many people were like, "Oh yeah, I love that. I love those guys."
Well, and it kind of, man, and really to think about it, I I'm actually kind of blown away too, just because sometimes and I catch myself saying this a lot. Like sometimes there's things that I remember from my childhood, or things that I grew up with, or whatever, and I'm always like, man, I kind of feel like maybe I made it up in my head. That probably wasn't real, and then you realize other people know about it too. It's like so because
Well,
I think when it was initially announced, I think it was initially announced at San Diego Comic-Con that it was going to be happening.
yeah,
But all the rest, and there was like a bunch of other stuff that got announced too, and I'm just like, oh my god, I was like, Nick is a madman over here. He's a madman over here at Dynamite. Just like I was like, I can only just imagine what else he has waiting in the wings. But the fact that when you were announced on this, Craig also, and then realizing like where you're at on it now, like you said you're working on was it 4 right now?
four right now. Yeah.
Oh man, so like, and that's kind of the thing that and I was curious, what your take on this might be. Yeah, since we talked about how like the Herculoids didn't really have like, I guess like your regulars when it came to like antagonists or anything like that. Like it was like I said, it was always kind of similar thing but different different group.
Right.
Is there anything that you're planning to add to that, like any like steady villain, or like or something that like I guess for like more of a long-term arc or anything like that?
Yeah, the long-term arc, which we kind of introduce at the end of issue 2,
Mhm.
is from something a very, very, very long time ago, and it has connections to the planet, and it has connections to our main characters. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to go any. Anyway, I don't want to go any further than.
Yeah. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
But there's also another group that I introduce in issue 2, which is part of a connection to the story that's going on in issue 1,
Mhm.
that I will probably play with in my next arc if I get another 12 issues.
Ooh.
Those will probably be more focused on the next 12 if I get another.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, and that's something else that I actually am. I've always been quite happy with what Dynamite does, is that in an era where like most of the time, it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll give you, we'll give you just a few, just to to get you started, and then we'll revisit. I've really appreciated Dynamite's been very generous with the amount of runway that they're handing out. That like, hey, look, we'll give you a chance, actually give you a chance to let you cook
Yeah.
and and tell a story and then go from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I love that. So, like I said, I think you're gonna take advantage of it. I think you're gonna
Oh,
take good advantage
absolutely.
of it.
I like the fact that they kind of wanted to do like the equivalent of one and done. Like,
Hmm.
oh, read this comic and you get your story. I mean, you may have like sprinklings of stuff that's going to be brought back again later on, but you pretty much your story is done in that one issue.
Right.
Like the first two issues are one story, and then there's
Mm.
a issue three is a one shot, and issue four is kind of a one shot. But again, there's that overlying like underlying theme that goes through all of them. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's really fun.
I can only imagine. And I will definitely say too, because I think I actually have, and I think everybody else, if y'all have any questions, y'all could definitely add them in. But I have a question here. This one's from Bone Factory.
Yeah.
And Bone Factory is asking, says, Tom, where are you originally from and where are you based now? I'm always interested where comic talent is rooted from.
I am from Lynn, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Is a pretty rough town. um, when you tell somebody in Massachusetts you're from Lynn, they always go, "Oh, Lynn, the city of sin." You never went where you been, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's where I'm from." Yeah.
It sounds like the type of it sounds like the type of place that like a like if you had Justified but by way of up north,
Yeah,
that's what it
yeah,
sounds like.
that wouldn't be too far off.
Like it sounds like a town Elmore Leonard wrote.
Right now, and now I'm south of Lynn. I'm in on the I grew up on the North Shore of Massachusetts. Now I'm on the South Shore of Massachusetts at a place called Stoughton. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's maybe an hour away from Lynn.
Well,
Boston's right.
it's just like a hop, skip, and a jump, just kind of.
Boston's right in the middle.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask too, because I don't think I ever got to ask you this before. When it comes to like just as a you're talking about your writing talent and and where it comes from. I was actually really curious, like when you first like when you first got in the game of being a storyteller, writing comics, writing books, and all that good stuff. Like,
Mhm.
what was your like I don't know what was the origin story for that? Like, what actually got you into the media?
You know what? There was always, even as a little kid, there was always a fascination in storytelling. I
Mm,
was always kind of fixated on telling stories that I made up in my head. I mean, right down to action figures and like these giant concoctions that I would come up with that would end on a cliffhanger to be continued the next day. So I was doing sequential storytelling with my action figures when I was like six, so that was kind of a logical, that kind of I could kind of see where that was going, and that
mm,
it kind of never went away. I mean, um, I would write stories, you know, handwrite things, and I can remember sitting at an old fashioned typewriter and typing out in these Godzilla stories, no punctuation, just these giant run on, like just this run on and sentences, and yeah, just insanity. Um, but you know what's funny? I've mentioned this to people. and they seem kind of surprised by it because they're obviously younger than I am.
Mhm.
When I first started thinking about the idea of maybe like writing comics or writing books or writing, there was really no place to learn how to do any of that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like,
You know what I mean? Like to learn how to write a comic
mhm.
script. There were no books.
No.
There was no internet. Oh, I'm gonna date myself. I'm gonna be dragging a ossified human femur, and I caught my food. But
Well,
yeah, and at the time there was nothing. There was nothing. There was like no way. I mean, you could want to do this all you want, but there was like no example. You
w-
couldn't
w-
even like copy something, you know?
I'm actually curious because that now that you said that, I remember being a kid. I remember being a kid, and one of my favorite things to do is go to the bookstore. Go
Yeah.
to the mall. There was two places I always wanted to go. Well,
Yep.
three technically. It was the toy store, the arcade, and the bookstore.
That's it.
Those were the places. Like that was where, like, if for whatever reason I was separated from my parents and they couldn't find me, they knew if that's how they knew I was legitimately kidnapped. If I wasn't in one of those three
We're in one
places.
of those places. Yeah.
So so like I remember walking into a bookstore. I remember the first time I actually saw this. And I think this is like the closest thing I'd ever seen to anything that could teach you how to make a comic in any discernible way. And it was like how to draw comics the Marvel way. And that was like
Oh,
the one thing. It was like the
yeah.
one thing I think that actually existed. And I
Yeah.
remember being in high school and I wanted to go to Memphis College of Art, but I remember when I was like looking into it, and I was like, man, the thing I want to do is like I want to draw comics. And I remember like there was nothing there. Like if you said, hey, I want to learn like sequential art, or I want to learn like how to make comics or comic strips or things like that. Like it was always things like, how dare you? Run along, child, run along. And so like when you say that, like I can only imagine how much more difficult it would have been
Yeah.
actually.
I mean, the first time that I ever actually got my hands on a sample of a
Mm,
comic script was given to me by Steve Bissett, who was the artist on Swamp Thing for
mm.
years. He gave me an Alan Moore script of Saga of the Swamp Thing,
Oh,
which was the size of a phone book.
oh my god.
Alan Moore scripts were like literally like that. Like that's a 22-page comic or less at that time. It could have been 17 for all I know. But
Oh my god.
the script was like this.
Oh.
And I can remember Steve saying to me, now you don't have to do this, but this is how it's done. You know, kind of look at this and kind of like re-engineer what you're seeing here, but this is what you would need to know, and you know what an artist sees when an artist has to draw a comic, what the script looks like.
Right.
Moore's were like, and I remember reading it, and I was just like laughing because he would go. There was a all right. Let me see if I can even remember this. There was a page in a particular issue. It was like the first page, and it was a shot of like a cutaway shot of like underground in a cemetery. So
Yeah.
you had underground like coffins and stuff like that that were open with the corpses exposed and stuff like that. And there were bugs and things in the earth and stuff like that. But Moore had entire conversations with the bugs. The bugs were now this was nowhere in the comic, but these bugs were communicating for pages and pages of going just back and forth, like the theories of like just these crazy philosophical theories on the world and stuff. Now, this is nobody else is seeing this except Steve and John Toddleton, who would be drawing the comics. But I remember him saying, "Yeah, this is what we get," and it was so ridiculously entertaining. This would go on for pages. The bugs talking,
We- honestly, I'm sitting here flabbergasted, but like I keep trying to remind myself of like it was Alan Moore, of course. Like what of course it was. But
And
like
he would do that with everything.
everything.
Everything was expanded. Like he'd do like tons of research, and he would give you all the research in the context of the script. That's why the scripts were so thick. They give you everything.
It was like he wasn't just giving you the script, he was giving you the Bible for
Yeah.
the story every
Yes.
wow, that
Yes.
is
He was giving you every possible thing that was going on in his brain when he was coming up with that story.
Oh my god, that is insane. That
Yeah.
that is he is every bit the mad lad that I have heard.
Oh,
Well, well, I just want to say that man, I don't know if you're handing in any 800 page manuscripts, but but I feel like what you just said is kind of like the inside track that I think a lot of people don't know about. And I as I've gotten more interested in the behind the scenes stuff of comics, I've been trying to spread the word about this. There are kind of like what you got. Just real quick for people, if you have any interest in learning like the process, which I mean, to be fair, there's books about it now.
Really good books now. I remember doing this in the bookstore. Like, oh,
it's like, oh, now you have books for me.
I mean, and they're really good. Some of them are really good. Yeah,
fantastic books.
Yeah.
But there are scripts. There are like sample scripts out there. I know a ways. I don't know how long ago this was. Probably a ways back. I know Brian Michael Bendis had like an archive of like just random and sundry scripts from tons of different comics. If you want to go through and see like how to, because I will say this: if you read a script, everybody's script process is similar in a lot of ways, but it also could be very different depending on obviously bugs having conversations with one another. That's not normal.
Pages of bugs.
But I do highly advise look up script archives and you'll learn a great deal about what information typically goes into an average.
What I recommend, and again, this is me, and it means anything, but what I recommend a lot of the times is getting your hands on a particular comic, getting your hands on a copy of the script.
Yep.
And basically put them side by side, and you look, and you see how this is. That's how I did that with Janine, teaching Janine comic book writing. I was like, look at this. This will kind of show you. How like the nuts and bolts of the thing, and how it's done. And she got quite a bit out of that because she was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. All right, this description, this panel description, I got this artwork from this panel. And so much of it is like if you've worked with an artist before, like me and Craig, for example, there's like a shorthand to your style. So I can say something to Craig in the simple way, but I know what I'm going to get because I know Craig knows exactly kind of what I'm picturing inside my skull. And he'll kind of give me that, So, and then there are experiences where you're working with an artist that you've never worked with before. So that script has to be more specific to make sure that you get everything that you need out of the panel or the page or whatever. So it's again, like you said, when you look at these things, all they're the same but different. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's kind of the thing I've always found. Like, if you want to see a big smile on my face when I pick up like a trade paperback,
Yeah,
it's when I open it up and at the back of the book, there's like all the sketches and early like work in progress stuff and like the outline and then the script and then like and I can kind of I love like if you
Oh yeah.
I think it actually should be in every not every trade paperback does this or every like collection does this, but I think it should be like look, it's the one thing I'll say that I think should be government sanctioned in comics as far as like creative stuff goes. I think all that stuff should be in there because I love to see it.
Well, it's learning how the sausage is made. You know
right.
what I mean? You know, the ugly stuff, the pretty stuff, the fun stuff. I mean, I think that makes the experience of reading a comic or a collected story arc or whatever that much more special because you feel like you're getting like inside information. I mean, I know when I sit down with a collected thing, I love what you just described. I love that. I love the notes on a character. I love the doodles, you know.
Well, also in the conversations that can happen, because I've even seen some scripts where like the writer's having like a little inside conversation with the artist, like or even knowing that like I remember, oh man, I don't remember what comic it was for or who even wrote it, but I remember reading something. And they were like, yeah, you know the thing. They're like, or you know that thing you always do in every comic you draw. Like, yeah, do that thing. And it's like, like stuff like that. Like how informal it could be. Like it's like, oh man, dude, that's so cool to me. And I think like we got my homeboy Gavin Guidry in here. Fantastic artist, by the way. Most 20-page comic scripts I get sent are probably around 23 to 25 pages on average. Printed, and that's on the high end at least, and which is just wild to me. You know, that's some are like even like 20 even, which is insane. Is like, but the thing you think about is like, yeah, like what stuff gets left out, what stuff doesn't make it in. I think those are the hidden gems for me.
I think that in terms of like when I'm plotting and scripting, I don't leave anything out.
Just put it all in.
What I came up with as the story is going in there. Whether I'm going to find a way to fit it in.
Well,
I got 22 pages, so that's you know that's what I can work with. So I gotta come up with the most clever way visually to tell that story, along with my captioning and my word balloons and such like that. But yeah, if I'm plotting something out, it's 20.
Oh, and then like the page turns, and you got like then you have to like the page turns to account for too.
Yeah, that's a pain in the neck.
Yeah, something I recently had to learn myself. I was like, oh wow, page turns. That's a Okay, all right. So I got to think about where stuff. It was something like because generally just creative writing, I would just write like whatever. I didn't think about like, oh well, where is something going to fall in place? But it's like, oh yeah, you have to write to keep people, wanting to flip that next page. And and honestly, you know what? I think you just made a case here today. I think that's something that should, I mean, maybe it is taught now. I don't know, but I do feel like if you could go to school for it, if it's something like you could actually go like to like a like college for or whatever, I think that should be a class is like, page turning. Like that should be a thing because I feel like that's an art people don't think about when they get into comics. Like when you're like a reader, you don't think about it very much, but like when you actually are making comics for that first time, I think it's something that's incredibly valuable, like knowledge to like the people don't know going in and sometimes have to find out the hard way.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like even in terms of like you never want a splash page to be next to a page because you want that splash page to be a reveal, like a big exciting moment. So it's usually on a flip, and whoa, look at that big giant.
And it's like, oh well, then the final page, you got to have something like, got to have that hook, that cliffhanger for the next issue, or you got to have something, or depending on what kind of comic it is, like you might The story might end there, but I mean, you might got to have that little, oh man, what's going to get you to come back next week, or next month, or whatever. Uh, but one thing I want to say is that for those of y'all guys, if y'all haven't figured it out by now, Herculoids, y'all probably want to go check this out. I think you should. I might be a little biased. but I'm gonna say you should. Was this February? I believe it's February. Is it February the 19th?
February 19th. That's when it's supposed to hit stores. Yeah.
So, and I'm actually gonna make a special proclamation here. I'm gonna say don't wait. Don't wait till February 19th. I'm actually gonna say something very controversial, yet so brave. I'm gonna say go into your local comic shop now. Or tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday, so you'll obviously be going in there. You should. When you're in there, talk to your hookup behind the counter and say, "Hey, there's this Herculoids series coming out. Can you put that in my pull box? Can you throw that?" And this is what you do. Another thing I'm gonna say, very controversial, very brave, is that say put the whole series in.
That's what I say.
Because I know I've seen a lot of people talking in my Discord and in the chat and everything. I will say this: if you want the thing, you got to go get the thing. If you want the thing to keep happening, you got to go get the thing.
I want that second year. I want another.
Yes.
I want 2 years at least.
Look, as much as Tom wants it, I want it. so we got to make this happen, okay? We got to make it happen. I actually have a for those who are here on the YouTube side. Actually, I think it's on the Twitch side as well. There should be a link pinned at the top of the chat. There'll be a link to the Dynamite website where you can actually get it direct from them. If you do not have a local comic shop in your area, that's a really good way to get it because you just get it straight from the well, straight from Dynamite. I also will say in the description for YouTube, there are links to a lot of Tom's other works. You should go check those out. I think I have links in there for some of your Vengeance of Vampirella stuff, the Vampirella Dark Reflections. I think some of the Hellboy stuff that you did, as well as Soul Taker. I have links to all that stuff in there. If you're on the Twitch side, it's actually kind of easy. There's no description over there, but if you type in !works, you'll find it. And I also have links to all your socials and stuff and your website. And just also, on top of all that, I wanted to say too, because you never know. I always like give people this opportunity. Do you have anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Herculoids.
Oh, pull box. Pull box.
And also, last time Janine and I were on, we were talking about a novella that we did called Nera.
Mm-hmm.
Nera is done and on its way to production. So I would imagine within the next 2 months, maybe, the book Nera will be available for people to purchase from Bad Hand Books in Amazon.
Okay.
Bad Hand Books is the publisher, and they are great. And Nera is the first of hopefully many new novellas in the Nera saga.
Well, I will definitely say I'm pretty sure you and Janine we'll set up something because I want to get y'all back for that.
Oh, we'd love to talk. Yeah, talking Nera would be great.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we'll definitely have you back for that. And I'll just say too, and once again, speaking of Janine, if you've not read Soul Taker, you should go read Soul Taker. Just putting that out there. Just saying. and yeah, just go get this in your pull box, please. That's I can't say it enough. I'm gonna keep saying it, but I think it's imperative. Pull box.
Yeah.
It is a word I'm going to beat in everybody's head all of 2025. That is my New Year's resolution. But Tom, thank you so much for A, being awesome, also B, you doing Herculoids, and C, yeah, just being a just awesome awesome writer and just doing
Thank you.
awesome stuff.
I love this is a very lonely job. So the opportunity to actually talk about stuff and have people understand what you're talking about is
Yeah.
a wonderful thing.
Well, I will just say well, I'm sure I don't have to tell you this because I've told you this a million times, I feel like by now, but you're always welcome here on the show. And like I said, you and Janine both, y'all are always welcome here. And I can't, like I said, we're gonna get that whole we're gonna get a conversation from Nira started here before long. And I guess until then, everyone in the chat, thank you all for dropping in. And I guess we will see you all next time. We're out of here, everybody.
Thank
Peace.
you.